Hey beautiful, thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. My name is Chisom. So on today's video we'll be learning how to make this beautiful corset blouse with yoke and basic sleeve. If this sounds like something you're interested in learning, keep on watching to the end of this video. Let's dive straight into the tutorial. So to begin, I'll go ahead and mark my starting line, which is going to serve as my shoulder line. Now this mark I have here is going to be my shoulder line, and from that mark I'm going to be putting my horizontal measurement. I'll place my tape on the shoulder line and mark out my chest line, which is also going to be my armhole line, my bust point, my under bust, my waistline, and the full blouse length, which is going to be 25 inches, and I'm going to make the point into a horizontal line. On the shoulder line, I'll mark out my shoulder measurement divide by 2, and I'll place the same figure on the chest line, and I am going to square that up. For my next second first measurement, I am going to be using the basic 3 inches width by 3 inches depth, and I'll connect that with my curve ruler like so. For my shoulder slope, I am going to be coming down by 1.5 inches, and I'll take that point to meet the neck width. On my chest line, I am going to be marking my bust measurement divide by 4. Then I'm going to go up by 3 inches on the armhole line, and I'm going to be coming in on that 3 inches point by 0.75 for my armhole curving, and I'll use my ruler and connect the points. I'll make sure the ruler is touching the armhole curve point I have there and my bust measurement point I have, and I'll connect like so. On my waistline, I'll be marking out my waist divide by 4 plus that intake allowance, and on the hip line, I'll mark out my hips divide by 4, and I'll connect that with my ruler. I'm connecting the waistline to the hip line with a slight curve, and I'll flip the curve ruler and use to connect from the chest line to the waistline like so. I'll be marking out my bust span, which is also known as the nipple to nipple measurement, on the bust point line and on the hip line, and I'm going to make that into a straight line. Next, I'll mark my side dart, which is the difference between the front and the back block, and I'll connect the dart to the bust point. I'll get the midpoint of my side dart and I'll come out by 0.5 inches, and I'll connect it to meet the chest line and down to the waistline. I'm going to be ruling out the midpoint of the side dart to also meet the bust point line. I'll go ahead and shade out the darts that I'll not be needing in this pattern. On my waistline, I'll be taking 0.75 inches on both sides of the dart leg. Then on the bust point line, I'll come down by 1 inch. Then I'll connect the waist dart to the 1 inch point that I have there. On the hip line, I'll take 0.25 inch on both sides of the dart leg, and I'll connect it to meet the waistline dart like so. Moving on, I'll get the midpoint of my shoulder line and I'll connect the point to the bust point. I'll be taking out the excess I have on my under bust line and distribute it on both sides of the dart leg, and I'm going to be connecting that with the curvy part of my ruler to meet the bust point, like so. Then connect it back to the waistline. The next step is to determine my over bust line. This is where I want my cup to be sitting on my chest line. So from the top of the shoulder, I'll come down by 7 inches. And I'm going to make that into a broken line. This line I am marking out right now is my over bust line. On the over bust line, I am going to be marking 0.6 on both sides of the dart leg for the over bust tightening. This is to prevent the cup from gaping. In case if you're not going to be using yoke for your own, if you tighten the over bust line, it's going to ensure that the cup will sit perfectly on your chest line. Now I'll connect the over bust tightening into the bust point area like so. From the center front, I am going to be coming in by 0.5 on the bust points area, and I will be connecting it to meet the over bust line with my curve ruler like so. Then I'll also be connecting from that 0.5 inch to meet the under bust area using the deepest part of my curve. Now watch carefully how I am going to be placing this curve. I am not going to be making it to be too wide. I am just going to be making sure that it's going to give me an oval shape, so that way my curve will come out very curvy. Please watch what I am doing carefully and follow the same process to get a perfect curve. Moving on to the side, I'll come down by 0.5 on the chest area. Now I'll go ahead and place my curve on the over bust line, and I'll connect it into the armhole like so. Then I'll go ahead and blend it into the 0.5 inches mark I came down by, like I am doing right now. Now for the side curve curving, I'll use the exact same curve part I used for the other side to curve this side into the under bust area like so. Now I'm done with the cup part. So I want to give my waistline a defined look. So on the waistline, I'll come in by ½ inch and I'll connect it to the chest area with my slight curve. Now on the hip line, I will be replacing the dart I have there on the side. Then I'll connect the waistline to meet the hip line with the curve ruler like I am doing right now. I'll go ahead and blend the waistline area to avoid having any sharp point. So you can see how defined the waist area is looking. This is going to help give a snatched effect. So I am marking out the unwanted parts on that waistline. So to tighten the yoke area, I'll be taking the overbust that I have there to the top like I am doing right now. This is going to help the yoke area to be the same length with the body part. So by the time the pattern is cut out, we'll be closing the dart on the yoke. On the hemline, I am going to be going up by 2.5 inches to curve out the side. So now I'm done with the front pattern. Let's move over to the back pattern. For the back pattern, we have the shoulder line, the chest line, the waistline, and the full length of the blouse right here. So the next thing I'm going to do is to tighten the back waistline. So on the back waistline from the center back, I will come in by 1 inch, and I am going to be connecting the points to the top and bottom of the pattern. Moving on, I'll mark out my shoulder measurement divide by 2 on the shoulder line and put same figure on the chest line, and I am going to connect that to a straight line. I'll measure out the back neck width of 3 inches and neck depth of 1.5 inches. I'll come down from the top of the shoulder by 1 inch for the shoulder slope, and I'll connect the points to make the neck width. On the chest line, I'll mark out my bust divide by 4, and on the waistline, I'll mark out my waist divide by 4 plus my dart intake allowance. Then on the hip line, I will mark out my hips measurement divide by 4. And I'm going to connect the points together to form the shape of the side. Now to curve the armhole, I'm just going to be using my armhole ruler to curve it out like so. I'm going to be marking out my bust span on the chest line and also on the hip line, and I'll connect that into a straight line. Then I'll measure my dart intake on the waistline and connect it on 1 inch below the chest line. On the hip line, I'll mark 0.25 on both sides of the dart leg. Then I'll connect it to meet the waist dart. Next, I'll measure to get the midpoint of my shoulder line. Then I'll connect the point to the dart point. On the armhole area, I'll come down by 0.5 inch, and on the center, I'll come down by 1 inch from the chest line, and I'll connect the 2 points with a slight curve. Now this is going to be my over bust for the back. I'll be marking 0.5 on both sides of the dart leg, and I'll connect it back to the waistline. Then I'll be taking the dart straight to the top. Now to create an opening at the center back, I will come in by 1 inch on the chest line, and I'm going to be connecting that to the down part of the pattern. If you want your back side to be open more than this, you can go in as much as 2 inches, but I am taking just 1 inch because I will not be putting anything to cover the back. So I am shading out the unwanted part right now. So this is where I will be inserting my eyelets. And that is all for the drafting of the back piece. Back to the front pattern, I want to be making a 3-part out of this cup. Starting from the over bust line at the middle, I'll come down by 2.5 inches. On the side, I'll be coming down from the armhole area by 1.5 inches. And on the center line, starting from the cleavage depth, I will come down by 1.5 inches. Then I'll connect these points together with this ruler. Now I'll go ahead and cut out the pattern, taking out all the unwanted parts. Now I've gone ahead to transfer the pattern pieces to my fabric. I have the front pieces right here and the back pieces as well. What I'm going to be doing next is to join the front pieces together. First, I'll join the cup part. I'll join the lower part of the cup, and after joining the lower part, I'll join the upper part to it like so. After I'm done joining the cup pieces together, I'll go ahead and join the side fronts to the center. I'll join each side of the fronts to the center piece accordingly. After joining the fabric, I'll go ahead and join the lining just the same way I have joined the fabric. I have used the cut pieces to cut out wooden pieces, which I'm going to be joining together and be using as the cup part of this corset. Now I'll go ahead and use hemming gum to glue the cup parts to the fabric with my hot pressing iron. Next, I'll be attaching the cup to the corset body. To do that, I'll make sure the underbust area on the corset body is matching the underbust area on the cup part. So I'll simply place it like so, making sure the underbust lines are matching each other, and I'll use my pin to secure it before heading over to my sewing machine and stitch it down. The next step is to go ahead and join the back pieces together. So I'll take the two sides of the back and join to the two center back pieces like this. Then after joining the back pieces together, I'll go ahead and join the side of the front to the side of the back. This is it after I'm done joining the sides together. I also went ahead to iron the seam lines open, and you can see how beautifully this is turning out to be. Please ensure you notch the waistline area to prevent it from having fold or smile lines. Here's the lining piece, and on this lining is where I want to be attaching the bonings for this corset. I don't want to be attaching it on the main fabric. So here is the resin boning I'll be using for the boning of this corset. I'll simply place the bones like so, leaving ½ inch on top and leaving ½ inch on the lower part, so that when I am attaching this lining on the fabric, the bones will not be getting in my way. So I'll simply place this boning on the marks I have right here and all the seam lines I have on this lining piece. So I'm done stitching down the bones on the lining, and this is what it's looking like. I'll simply go ahead and iron this to lay flat, and I'll be right back. After ironing, this is what it's looking like at this point. The next thing I'm going to do is to attach the cup part of this lining piece. So I'm done attaching the cup to the lining piece, and this is what it's looking like. So I'll simply keep this lining piece aside and I'll work on the yoke part of the blouse. Now I'll go ahead and place the back yoke to the back side, and I'll pin it. I'll secure this with my pin, and I'll go ahead and stitch it on my sewing machine. Also, for the front yoke, I am going to place it on the body part like so. I'm going to sew it around just the way I am demonstrating right now. Now, to join this yoke is not going to really be an easy thing to do. This is where you need a lot of patience and dedication to be able to attach this yoke successfully. So I'll simply head over to my sewing machine right now and attach the yoke from one side to the other side, and I'll be right back. So after attaching the yoke, this is what it is looking like at this point. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to use the lining to cover up the seams. To do that, I'll simply place the center part of the lining to meet the center part of the fabric like so, and I am going to secure this with a pin. So I'll gently take the lining round the top part of the fabric, and while at it, I'll make sure I move the yoke part away to avoid it getting stuck into the lining. I'll head over to my sewing machine right now and stitch it, and I'll be right back. So this is the outcome after turning it with my lining. You can see how neat this is giving already. So the next thing I'll be doing is to go ahead and close the center part of the fabric. I'll simply flip it over like so, making sure the right side of the fabric is facing the right side of the lining, and I'll go ahead and stitch it down. So I'm done stitching close the center, and this is the look right now. I also went ahead to stitch the fabric to the lining on the lower part so that it will be easier for me when I want to pipe the lower part. Okay, so I have this strip of fabric. I want to use this lace fabric to cover the lower part of this blouse. So I'll go ahead and place this lace fabric underneath like so. I want to start stitch from inside out. Okay, I'll place it under it like this, and I'll go ahead and run a stitch around the lower part of this blouse. Then after stitching it, I'll come back to the point I started and fold in 1/2 inch. Then I'll be top stitching on the folded part. After hemming the lower part, I'll then go ahead and attach my sleeve to the armhole area. This is just a basic sleeve, so I'll go ahead and finish up everything and I'll show you the final look. Here is the finished look of the blouse. The only thing left for this blouse is to attach eyelet to it, which I'll be doing in the market later, as I don't have the machine for fixing it yet. Thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. If you found this video helpful, kindly give this video a thumbs up. Share this video with your friends, family, loved ones. If you're yet to subscribe to my channel, please hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.